Alright, we are back with a new video, and we are continuing with this series of reviewing new episodes of Owl House, and today we got Any Sport in a Storm, and I'll admit that I enjoyed this episode more than I expected. Now admittedly a lot of it involves characters I don't really care as much about, like Willow, Gus, and Hunter, but for what it is, I think this episode managed to be a bit of fun. With that said, there was plenty of weirdness to go around. So first up, then we get a follow-up to that random scene of Willow working out from Follies at the Coven Day Parade. It turns out that switching to the plant track made her more confident and willing to try new things, which is something I guess. So she wants to start a club at school that plays this rad new sport, but the Abominations professor she ditched to join the plant track happens to be the person that approves of new clubs, and since he doesn't like quitters, he's giving Willow until the end of the day to put together a team and win a game in order to get the club to get approval, really being sort of a jerk about it. And to me, this feels very much like a typical sports movie of getting the ragtag team together, and there's some dumb stakes in there to win the big game. Obviously, they did something similar in Wing It Like Witches, and in fact, I think this episode was more so a homage to that episode than this one. So a lot of it felt like they were trying to recapture that, and honestly, I think they do it to a degree, though admittedly, it wasn't as effective this time. Meanwhile, this is also a Hunter episode, because he exists and we need a redemption arc. So basically this episode is all about him not being respected by the other coven heads, but especially not Darius, the head of the Abominations coven. And it's pretty clear at this point that they're trying to set each of these coven heads up as some major figures. I mean, we saw that with Rain and Ida's Requiem, Tara and Follies at the Coven Day Parade, and now Darius here. I feel like we'll be getting this from the others, but obviously now we have to deal with Darius. So anyway, Darius mocks him and makes Hunter recruit some people for the Emperor's Coven, which he finds in Willow's new sports team. He pretends to be someone else, plays in the game, and they win the game, and then has all of them captured to be his quote-unquote recruits and impresses Darius. But because our boy needs a redemption arc, he helps them escape. Gets Darius to back off by claiming that they're insubordinate, and then Darius praises him for this. I'm not sure what the whole situation was. I guess Darius wants Hunter to act his age rather than try to be their leader. But most of the episode clearly shows Darius not really liking Hunter, seeing him as this nuisance. And was this Darius's plan the whole time? I mean, to capture recruits and allow Hunter to crash his ship and let him get away? I'm sure there are people out there that'll have discussions about this, but at first blush, I found this whole situation weird and confusing. Aside from that, there's also the side plot of Luce and Amity wondering if the author of these Zula books is human or not and trying to track him down, only to find out that Tibbles has been trying to sell the books into Boiling Isles as part of a scam. And I'm not gonna lie, this side plot felt pretty pointless. I guess it was there to fuel speculation that there's another portal out there allowing a human to go between the realms, but by the end this all amounted to nothing. If there's any positive that can come out of it, it's that we get to see more Lumity. And considering I dig their relationship, that's something at least. The way they talk is just very organic, and you can tell the two of them are completely open and comfortable with each other. Watching them interact is very refreshing, so I'll give this a pass. On the whole, this episode is okay. Admittedly, I don't think it's as well structured as the previous two episodes, with a number of story beats being either pointless or confusing, and I feel like the Luce and Amity stuff was only put in there to fill up screen time because they didn't have enough time to cover the main storyline. As I alluded to earlier, Willow, Gus, and Hunter are not my favorite characters in the world, plus this episode uses elements I think were executed better in other episodes. But on the other hand, I think this episode was more enjoyable than it had any business being. While the focus was on characters I don't enjoy, I enjoyed them in this episode. Seeing Willow's increased confidence was nice to see, plus Hunter's redemption arc getting additional setup, and while the side plot didn't amount to much, it gave us some Lumity, which I think is one of the show's major strengths. So ultimately, I enjoyed this episode. In terms of where it fits on the ranking, it's certainly below Wing It Like Witches. As I already said, this is an inferior version of that story. Plus, the technical issues don't really help it as well. But I also don't think it's super low either. I can't really put it at the bottom. I feel like low 20s is the place for it. Kind of where I have Adventures in the Elements and Through the Looking Glass Ruins. Good, but definitely has some issues. So there we go. That will do it for this week's review. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And again, I'll be back in the future with other content like this. Stay tuned for that. But for now, that is the video. See ya.